Hey guys, so today I am playing Deckard Cain on the PTR, and I'm going to first go through all of his abilities, and then I'll go into the gameplay and how I recommend playing him, how I'm going to be testing out playing him. So to start out, I'm going to explain his quests, or sorry, not his quests, his talents, his abilities, everything like that. So before I get into his ability, or his talents, let's start with his abilities. He has a mount like most heroes, as opposed to anything specific per character. He has healing potions. These have a 3-second cooldown, 2 seconds if you're next to a hero because of your passive, or 1.5 seconds if you get a talent at level 16. These will leave on the ground, and then whenever someone needs it, they can walk over it and get heals. And you can have up to 5 out at a time. It'll show you your 5 over here. You can also throw them out if you want to try to heal your allies, but because of the travel distance, it's going to be a difficult ability to heal people during fights. So, it's going to be more of a place them during fights and hope that your team is paying attention, but I'm going to explain a little bit on why I don't think that's a bad thing while we get more into his abilities and talents. But you'll see Sonya gets some pretty big heals. He's actually one of the stronger healers if your team is getting potions, just because you're healing for 239 at level 1, which is a decent chunk. His auto attacks are melee, which is going to make him a healer that is going to be very difficult to engage on people and poke on them using your auto attacks. So he's mainly going to be using his abilities and staying at a safe distance, as well as utilizing the potions. His next ability is Herodric Cube. It fires a cube. It's a pretty quick ability, and then it takes a second and it slows. His next ability is Scroll of Sealing. This one takes forever to activate, and it draws a scroll, but if it does land, it is a very long route ability that is extremely powerful. And then his ultimate abilities, he has 2 different ones to choose from. I'll get there when I get to level 10. And his passive is Fortitude of the Faithful, which increases your armor if you're next to someone, as well as it increases your cooldown reduction by 50%, which does not mean that your cooldowns are cut in half. It means that you get 50% more cooldown reduction as opposed to the 100% which you normally have. So essentially, it think of it as a dropping your cooldowns by 33%, I believe, is what the math comes out to be. So essentially right now it drops your cooldowns by 33%. So, what are his talents? The first talent that I'll get into is his quest, which means that if you hit enough people with this, you will reveal them, as well as you can reduce their armor. My worry about this is just how long it takes to do something. If they're not sitting still the whole time, you're not going to land this and you're not going to get quests. It may be an option later on if you can combine it with someone else who does do these, like another person with a stun or root. It could be okay. Scroll of Sealing. This increases your spell power for 14 seconds per person hit with your Scroll of Sealing. I think this talent's okay because it does increase the healing you do as well as the damage, but my worry about it is that you still need to land your E, which means that if you're going to land your E just to get the bonus healing, you might as well get this one, which is going to give armor as well as revealing enemies for a long period of time. But the spell power does last a long time, and it could really add up. The last one is probably going to be my favorite, which increases the slow of your next Herodric Cube by 25%. Well, Herodric Cube slows for 35%, so if you get that, it's going to add up to, what, let's see, 70%? 60%? 60%, sorry. The math was different from the last time that I read it, so there's already been a change since when it was first announced, because it used to be 40 and 30%. So this means that you get a 60% slow on someone, which can be very powerful. What I find is, I think that this is going to be the talent to pick, just because you can use your E first, you can pop this, you can use your E and then throw a Herodric Cube, and they're slowed, which is going to guarantee that they get the lockdown as well. So I think that's going to be the build for at least level 1. Let me change the talents to level 10, and we'll go through some of the other ones. Actually, I might as well set it at 20 while I'm going through all these talents. So I think Sapphire is going to be the pick for the first level. The next one allows you to either give a shield for 6 seconds with your potions, restore mana with your potions, but it's only 10 mana, so I don't know if that's going to be the best option. Or it makes it to where your next Herodric Cube creates lesser cubes for each one that's hit. I'm going to show you what this looks like. You toss out the ruby, it explodes, and these little mini healing potions pop up, which allows people to get burst heal as well. I feel like all 3 of these are viable options. If there's someone that has mana trouble, this one could be good, because this also gives a healing over time. It's not just for mana, it's a healing over time. So it's pretty much I would leave these in lane. If I was going to be roaming from lane to lane, I would probably go Rejuve. But if I feel that there's going to be more team fights, I think Ruby's necessary. Otherwise, I think if you're really good at landing the Qs while fights are going on, I think that the shield could be good just because you're constantly tossing it out, giving shields to your team, and it could be good. The shields do last 6 seconds, so it can be pretty beneficial. However, for this case, I'm going to go with Ruby. Level 7, what happens is you get, again, there's 3 options, but I feel like I only really like one of them. And the reason why is this one reduces the cooldown of your Scroll of Sealing for each enemy hit. While this could wombo really well, like let's say for example you did, we're doing this combo, right, where I do the E first, and then I do the W, and my goal is to root them as well as getting the extra slows out. Well, let me get this for a second, and you can see if you were able to get this on a large group of people. Let me toggle cooldowns. This is what your cooldown could be for your E. You toss out your E, you toss out your W, and watch the E. It's almost off cooldown again. So when this one's over, you can almost just toss out another one. The problem is it's not perfect. Landing it on 4 people still doesn't give you no cooldown. So I don't really like that one that much. I would actually prefer to get the reduced damage dealt. If you're already going to slow people, they have 2 choices. They're about to be slowed and rooted, so their only choice is to fight. And if you lower their damage as well, they won't be able to win the fight. If they have high healing, you can go with Emerald because it's a 75% reduction in healing. So I think the picks are going to be either Kanai's Cube against most teams or Emerald against double support. Level 10, I like both of his ults just because they're on really low cooldowns. Looks like Stay a While and Listen has got a longer cooldown than it was before. The only reason that Stay a While and Listen is very difficult is because if you activate it on someone and then your team decides to interrupt, what's going to happen is it's just going to wake them up immediately, and then you're stuck there in a really bad position. So that's the only reason I don't like it, but I do like both of these ultimate abilities for different situations and scenarios. So either one can work, and we'll kind of go from there. Lornado, let me reset talents really quick, and I'm going to show you...
Choose a talent.
Let me go with this for this time around, and then Kanai's Cube, and I'll show you what Lornado looks like. You can pick any area, and then you can aim where you want it to go. So if you really wanted to, you could even send the Lornado over this way and see if you can push the enemy towards you, or you can use it in another direction to push them away from an objective. Again, it's a low cooldown, powerful zoning ability. We'll see how it goes. I'm going to use the regen one right here, and you can see it's quite a good amount of healing. Now level 13, you have super healing potions, which if you leave it on the floor for a while, it upgrades. You have AoE healing potions, which does an AoE when you heal them. And then you have Activate Fortitude to empower allies' abilities. This makes it to where when they auto-attack, for their next auto-attack, I believe it's only their next one, but let's double-check. You can pop it. Let's see. Yeah, I believe it's just the next auto-attack. She hasn't auto-attacked yet, so I don't know. Oh, actually, no. So, let me pop cooldowns really quick. I want to make sure that this is... Oh, toggle cooldowns doesn't work for traits. But yeah, so this ability makes it to where they do extra damage and they heal when they do their damage. But it only works for auto attacks. So if you're with heroes that aren't going to get a lot of auto attacks, this might be bad. But watch. So she's auto attacking. Oh, stop spinning, Sonya. So she's auto attacking, she's getting healed and doing extra damage. So it lasts the entire duration. That means that this is going to be your pick for team fights because it gives you a lot of healing in team fights. It gives you a lot of extra damage in team fights. But if you find yourself more in the need for setting up before fights, I think Super Healing Potion is going to be the best as you get these giant heals. I think Potion of Revival is the most difficult one to abuse because it's an AoE, but it's such a short range that it's going to be people are going to be picking up their ability, or they're going to be picking these up, and they don't want to wait for someone to get near it before they pick it up so that it gets AoE. So I would highly recommend either the Ancient Blessings for team fights, or I'd highly recommend Super Healing Potions for preparing for objectives. Level 16. There are a lot of good talents at level 16. Roderick's Staff means every 5 seconds when you auto-attack, you stun for 0.75 seconds. That is the same amount of stun as Uther's stun. The same duration and everything. So, it's like you get an Uther stun every 5 seconds. But Deckard Cain's a lot squishier than Uther and doesn't have as much self-healing as Uther. So walking up to people could get yourself killed just trying to get that stun, which means that this will likely only be used defensively as opposed to Uther's, which can be used offensively. Safety in numbers means if you're near 3 people, meaning you're in a group of 4, you and 3 other people, you have double the your cooldowns are cut in half, as well as you have an extra 10 armor, meaning you're safer in fights. I think that this could be a great option, especially if you got this, which means that you want to be in the middle of fights, giving your passive to as many people as possible. I definitely think safety in numbers will be great for that. And finally, Scroll of Sealing does 200% more damage when hitting at least 2 heroes. Well, how much damage does it do at level 20? 342. Meaning when it does 200% more damage, it's going to do 1,000 damage. 1,000 damage. That's essentially anywhere between 1/3 to 1/4 of my health as a Deckard Cain, or against an Arthas, that's 1/5 of his health, a little bit less than 1/5 of his health. So it can be very bursty, but remember, you have to be able to follow that up on other things. I feel for most scenarios, I'm going to be picking safety in numbers in groups that I feel that we're going to be grouped up. Otherwise, if we are doing an engage comp, I'll do this, but I think all 3 of these options are really good. If I'm just grouped up with like 1 or 2 people in every fight, I think Roderick's staffs can be my go-to, but with 4 or 5, safety in numbers, and if we're just doing a dive comp, then Scroll of the Stone Curse. In this case, I'm going to go with this just because the other 2 don't do anything in try mode. Now here is the interesting part about his kit, and this is the one that I find is really, really strong. So if you've gotten a lot of gem abilities, I feel like getting perfect gems is going to be the best, as it reduces the cooldown of Horadric Cube by 5 seconds, which puts it in 9 seconds, and reduces your gems down to 5 seconds. Meaning every 9 seconds you get to use one of these gems. And probably faster than that because you're going to be around people lowering your cooldown with your passive. So, if you're using cubes to your advantage, I like this. Otherwise, his level 20 abilities are really, really strong. For example, his Stay a While and Listen. Even if people get woken up, this means when they get woken up, they get silenced and blind. Well, how do you deal damage? You deal damage with either auto attacks or abilities. Silence makes it to where they can't do damage with abilities, and blinds make it to where they can't do damage with auto attacks, which means that when they wake up, for 2 seconds, they cannot do any damage. So this makes this little 70-second cooldown ability essentially win you 2 seconds of every fight. And more than that, because this is when they wake up. If they don't take damage, they can't do any damage either because they're asleep. Then Lornado makes it to where every time you hit a hero, the cooldown is reduced by 5 seconds. Meaning that it can add up really, really fast, because you can essentially get Lornado after Lornado after Lornado after Lornado. Because watch how many times you can hit someone with a Lornado. 1, 2, 3. And maybe you could be hitting other heroes at the same time. So 3, that would have been 15 seconds off of that. And if you're hitting multiple heroes, you could get it down to where it's really only like a 20-second cooldown. But for the sake of this game, I'm going to get Perfect Gem just to show you kind of the slow capability. Doing a quick W, and I'm staying near so that I can get the lower cooldowns on my W. And then I have my W up again. So I'm getting a 60% slow off every time that I do this. And you could be getting damage reduction, because remember that I got the talent at 7, which does damage reduction. So I'm effectively reducing the damage, as well as I'm slowing people by a lot. And you can see it's a really big slow. I'm getting heals off, and I'm going to do another one, lowering his damage. I mean, I'm still getting heals off. You could see the benefits of having the lowered cooldown. So what I personally believe is if you really need zoning, get more Nados. If not, get Perfect Gem if you got Lornado. If you're trying to win team fights, Respect the Elderly is going to be your go-to option for Deckard Cain. So those are his talents, his abilities, as well as his auto attack range. Unlike Stukov, while his auto attack range is melee, he does not do that much damage. At level 20, he's only doing 150. Other than this stun at level 16, I highly recommend not worrying about auto attacking with Deckard Cain, as you'll likely just be getting in a bad position. And he has a very high ability upkeep, so you don't really need to be auto attacking, because there should always be something that you can be doing. So those are the abilities on Deckard Cain. All of the talents explained and shown on here. So far on the PTR, things may be changed. It seems like he's already gotten a few nerfs from what I can tell. And I'm going to be doing some gameplay for Deckard Cain over the next few days. And I'll be uploading those again on the YouTube channel, probably one today and then maybe one tomorrow and maybe one later in the week. So definitely check those out, and thank you so much for watching, guys.